Sejam bem-vindos, este é o Curiosidades do Mundo. Muito sabemos sobre o mundo, mas pouco sabemos sobre curiosidades do mundo. Com certeza há coisas e lugares surpreendentes, e essa é uma lista que vai te surpreender sobre os 5 melhores filmes ou séries sobre os jogos de xadrez. Mesmo não sendo um esporte mais popular no Brasil, o xadrez tem ótimos benefícios para as crianças devido ao seu poder de mexer com a memória, imaginação, criatividade, entre outras coisas. E essa é uma lista que vai te surpreender sobre os 5 melhores filmes e séries sobre os jogos de xadrez. Para iniciantes, confira agora as 5 melhores séries ou filmes sobre os jogos de xadrez. Xadrez para iniciantes. Confira agora a nossa lista dos 5 melhores filmes e séries de jogos de xadrez. Em quinto lugar, o Método Holandês. É uma série de produção brasileira que lista a tramas de xadrez.
O primeiro contato com ele foi quando eu descobri que na estante do meu pai, eu era garoto, não me lembro exatamente a idade, 13, 14, 15 anos, um livro que ensinava a jogar xadrez. Peguei esse livro, gostei, estudei e desafiei meu pai para uma partida de xadrez. E ganhei e nunca mais ele ganhou uma partida. Uma instituição na favela do Paraisópolis, onde são atendidas crianças, vai lá, vai dar aula para essas crianças. Eu fui. O primeiro ano também foi um sucesso bastante grande, foi muito bem. O segundo ano também foi bem.
O Método Holandês é um documentário também disponível no Vivo Play. Sua trama gira em torno de Henrique Schramm, que é o professor que, através de depoimentos e memórias, relembra como fez o xadrez uma ferramenta de educação entre crianças e adolescentes. Em quarto lugar, O Fantasma de Newton. O Fantasma de Newton é uma produção também brasileira e nesta história, após seus melhores amigos morrer, 2 senhores rememoram sua relação.
Jogar xadrez.
Pode ser.
Ô, Bolão, eu joguei mais de 1000 partidas com o Newton. E você?
Já vi jogar com as brancas.
Pô, Abdias, você é um velhaco.
Enquanto jogam a costumeira partida de xadrez que eles amavam, isto é, até um deles ver o fantasma do falecido. Em terceiro lugar, A Chance de Favre. Mais uma longa francesa é A Chance de Favre, que é baseada em uma história verdadeira. Na produção acompanhamos um garoto que, ao lado do seu pai, está ilegalmente na França em busca de asilo político. Ele desconta sua raiva e inteligência no xadrez até conseguir ter aulas com um rígido campeão do esporte que irá mudar a sua vida. E antes de eu falar do segundo lugar, deixa eu deixar um recado aqui para vocês. Vocês sabiam que atualmente existem mais celulares do que pessoas no Brasil? E com isso tem uma grande possibilidade de você poder trabalhar para você mesmo com o curso de manutenção de celular que está mudando a vida de várias pessoas aqui no Brasil. E você pode começar agora mesmo. Aproveita que está com super desconto o curso de manutenção de celular. Clica aí no final do vídeo para você saber mais informações. E agora sim vamos para o segundo colocado da nossa lista de hoje. E em segundo lugar, Lances Inocentes. Lances Inocentes é baseado em um livro que retrata a história real do enxadrista americano Joseph Whitson. No filme, um garoto aprende a jogar xadrez depois de acompanhar as divertidas partidas dos amadores de seu bairro.
Aviões e mais aviões esperavam na pista, enquanto ele cochilava, caminhava e comia sanduíches. Henry Kissinger ligou e pediu que ele fosse em defesa da honra de seu país.
Reykjavik, Islândia, 1972.
Logo depois de chegar, ofendeu os islandeses ao dizer que seu país não era adequado, já que não possuía pistas de boliche. Reclamou das câmeras de TV, da iluminação da mesa e cadeiras e do contraste dos quadrados no tabuleiro. E do quarto do hotel ele disse que tinha uma vista bonita demais. Nada disso tinha a ver com xadrez. Ou talvez tivesse. Se vencesse, seria o primeiro campeão mundial americano da história. Se perdesse, seria apenas mais um fracassado do Brooklyn. No 40º movimento da 21ª partida, rebateu o bispo para a sexta do rei de Spassky, com um peão para a quarta da torre. E aí tudo terminou. Voltou para casa como um herói americano. Ele tinha se gabado para o mundo que venceria o russo. E botou para quebrar. Ele agora tinha tanto dinheiro quanto os campeões de boxe. Era convidado para jantar com estadistas e reis. Aí Bob Fischer fez a coisa mais original e inesperada de todas. Desapareceu.
Lances inocentes.
Seu pai, um cronista esportivo, impressionado com a inteligência e a tática do garoto, o leva para ter aulas com um renomado professor. E em primeiro lugar, O Gambito da Rainha. É uma produção original da Netflix. O Gambito da Rainha foi a vencedora do Globo de Ouro em 2021, considerado como a melhor série e a melhor atriz de uma minissérie, Anya Taylor-Joy. Sua trama acompanha uma órfã que desde pequena demonstra talento para o jogo de xadrez, mas que conforme cresce e se torna profissional precisa enfrentar seus vícios e o ambiente machista do esporte. E é isso, chegamos ao final de mais um vídeo. E é claro que nossa lista poderia ser mais extensa, é verdade, pois existem outros filmes e séries com o tema de xadrez. Por isso listar apenas 5 deles não é tarefa muito fácil, muito menos justa, mas o importante é entender que o jogo de xadrez é um dos melhores esportes para você praticar e exercitar. Comente abaixo qual desses filmes ou séries você já assistiu e qual gostou mais e por quê. Se você curte temas relacionados sobre curiosidades do mundo assim como nós, clique no joinha e se inscreva no canal. Clique no botão vermelho aqui na tela para acompanhar os nossos vídeos semanais. Pessoal, até a próxima.
Going to stick a knight here. If he takes it off, he takes the bishop. So he took it off this bishop. And he's threatening this pawn. I don't think he took his right away. I guess he played here first. Now he took the bishop.
Bobby Fischer is one of the greatest, perhaps the greatest chess player in the world.
And now he took the rook.
Bobby Fischer, United States. World title contender.
Now black surprised him with this one.
Bobby Fischer is an isolated man.
Bobby Fischer's a strange man. People think that there's something wrong with the man.
And then the king moves. Takes the queen.
The great Bobby Fischer is here tonight.
Like a child, not a champion. His social life is a vacuum.
The most arrogant man you're ever likely to meet.
He takes it back, he gets checked.
Looking for Bobby Fischer.
Whatever happened to Bobby Fischer?
Reclusive. Threatening this pawn, and it's a dead lost game.
Bobby Fischer is searching for asylum.
It's really Fischer against the world. And here, White resigned.
Bobby Fischer interview. Right. Try not to tense up. And Bobby, you've given virtually your entire life to the world of chess. What about Bobby Fischer, the man? What's he like?
I don't know. It's pretty chess and me. It's like it's hard to take him apart. Just like my alter ego. I don't need to.
But there are times when you get away from that chessboard. What do you do?
I don't do too much at the moment. See, I'm really, tied up in chess. I intend to expand, but first I gotta get the title. That's basically.
Fischer will beat the Russians.
Do you honestly think that you probably are the world's greatest chess player?
Right.
Yeah.
In the 18-month period, in the run-up to his challenge to Boris Spassky, Fischer had beaten and in some cases destroyed some of the best Soviet players.
Fischer was wiping away his opposition like flies. He went on a 20-game winning streak, which was unheard of in championship chess.
Bobby Fischer was exciting not only the chess world, but the world.
There's trouble in Northern Ireland. Henry Kissinger is shuttling to and from Vietnam. And against that competition, the chess dominates.
In Moscow today, the Soviet Chess Federation called an angry news conference to denounce Bobby Fischer.
General Motors recalls 500,000 Chevrolet Vegas, and Bobby Fischer, true to his recent erratic behavior,
Finished off Tigran Petrosyan of the Soviet Union, a former world champion. It was the best news story of the day. The victory gave Fischer the right to play the world's champion, Boris Spassky, another Russian, next spring.
We all had hopes. We all wanted him to be world chess champion.
The one person he was yet to beat.
Title the Russians are holding. You don't like the Russians.
The Russians have cheated at chess. They have tried every way to avoid me, to avoid giving me a chance for a match. And they have slandered my name. And, they're dead afraid of me. They have been for years. That's the true story.
And now you're going to get them?
Well, now I'm going to try to get them,
The Soviets had been winning these tournaments, and I thought it would be good for America, for democracy, to have an American winner.
The stakes really couldn't be much higher politically, popularly in people's minds. These were two enemies who were not fighting a real war, but were trying to outdo one another strategically all the time.
We will not tolerate being pushed around.
We have a design and the material assets to deal with the Soviet Union.
Как никогда прочны международные позиции Советского Союза.
And this little thing with me and Spassky, instead of, with bombs, having it out over the board.
One of the superpowers, the Soviet Union, had made chess its national sport. They had spent unlimited amount of money. They had hundreds of grandmasters. They won every tournament, every chess Olympiad.
Я кричал: вы что там, обалдели? Что же вы уронили шахматный престиж?
For communist regime, keeping the crown was very important ideologically. This communist state took over chess to use it as proof of intellectual superiority over decadent West. Everybody knew that the crown has to remain in the Soviet Union.
Вы мускулы стальные, пальцы цепкие мои, эх, резные расписные, деревянные ладьи.
In the Soviet Union, everybody of talent was cultivated, was given financial help, coaching. All the top players were privileged people. In the United States, we didn't have any of that. Every single one of us was on his own.
And here came this lone American combating the might of the Soviet chess machine. National prestige was at stake.
Fischer recognized that he was representing not only him, but the entire free world. I think there was just too much on his shoulders.
you tell us how old you are and where you're from?
I'm 15, I'm from Brooklyn.
He is 15 years old and he is from Brooklyn. All right? Will you show your headline to camera 3 and to Dick Clark, because we'll make him go to work on you. It says, teenager strategy defeats all comers.
This strategy, did it involve finances?
No.
Did you have any help?
No.
Did it all by yourself? Did it make people happy?
Made me happy.
This young man's name is Bobby Fischer, and already he is the United States chess champion. He is 15 years old and he has defeated the Masters. He is the United States champion in chess.
I met Bobby when I was 14 and he was 8 in one of the chess clubs in Manhattan. He was the youngest kid around. He was unassuming. He was well-mannered. He was a nice kid. His mother, Regina, she was a woman who had to work 2 jobs, single mom, supporting 2 children, Bobby and Joan.
Regina was really the genius of the family. She spoke quite a number of languages, including Russian. She worked as a telegraph operator, a nurse, a welder. She actually got a PhD in hematology as well.
She was an activist. She was a communist. And the FBI files on her are quite extensive.
His mother was hounded by the FBI because they thought she was possibly a Soviet spy. This was a period when Jew and communists were equated. So his mother denied his Jewishness.
His mother told him if he would be sitting on the stoop at 560 Lincoln Place, apartment 4Q, and somebody would come up to him and ask him a question, he would say, "I have nothing to say to you." That was the proper answer that his mother told him to say.
You're from Brooklyn originally?
Chicago. Well, born in Chicago. Moved to Brooklyn when I was about 6. So lived on the coast.
Were you playing chess by then?
No, I learned in New York, yeah.
What age?
6.
When did you start to get serious about chess?
Well, when I was maybe 7.
If you can think back to your childhood and all the things you did after school and on the weekends, and imagine just filling all that in with chess study, chess lessons, chess practice, chess.
A diversão em família está completa com os brinquedos de Sonic 3 no Mac Lanche Feliz.
Training headquarters of Bobby Fischer.
Championship chess is a physically exhausting game. More than just a test of mind and will, it is a contest of physical endurance too. Bobby is 29 and he lives virtually a monastic life. He lives alone, always in hotel rooms that seem barely larger than chessboards. A lot of the time he won't even answer his telephone. The television set is his window on the world. Exercise is part of it.
I'm a world-class Olympic-level coach. I'm also a world champion in the bench press, and I've trained a lot of celebrities, but no one can match the fabulous Bobby Fischer. He was interested in the human body, how it performed, and how it could be more productive. He said, I want you to work on my grip. See this dynamometer? I want to squeeze this thing all the way to the end. I said, the world's strongest man has not squeezed 100 kilograms. He said, I'll squeeze 105. I said, why? When I shake that little Russian's hand, I want him to feel it. I started him off with a little swimming, racquetball, which we were quite good at, a little weight training. I said, repeat this after me. I'm a winner. I'm a champion. I'm not a loser. And he says, why'd you put the loser thing in there? You know I'm a champion.
Bobby is probably the most interesting person I've ever photographed. There he is, there's Bobby. And he said he to hold my breath like this, and it's, you know, it was good for his training. He was in training for Spassky. He asked me, what other jobs do? I told him I've just finished one on the New York Jets. Jets? They thought that was marvelous. They thought he wanted to hear all about it, how they train. And he said, you know, I've got to train like that as well. And he didn't mind anything I did. But it could have gone either way. He treated everybody else quite awful.
Bobby Fischer is a stubborn young man. Sometimes he fights for principle, more often just for himself. He'll refuse to play a match because his special terms aren't met. And for the past month, he's been giving fits to the International Federation, too. Not enough money for the winner of the world title, he says.
There was bidding on the match, and Iceland got it, I guess because they put up the highest bid. And Bobby didn't want to play. They said the country's too small. They don't have the facilities, they don't have communication.
The International Chess Federation wants word by tomorrow morning from Fischer on whether he's agreeable to 24 games in Iceland, and Fischer is taking his time answering.
You, as president of the Icelandic Chess Federation, are there times where you have been tempted to say, let's forget all about it?
As you know, we are organizing a chess match, and our only wish is to enrich the chess world.
They had all these lawyers, and they were raising demands all the time. But at the same time, it was never clear whether Fischer would come to Iceland.
Some neglect, the principal one was the prize money.
And I said, we have already settled the money question, and we will not be ready to discuss that.
There was a real possibility that the match wouldn't take place. One has to remember with Fischer that he dropped out of tournaments before. This was no bluff necessarily.
He's going, he's not going. And then he told me he was going. He more quietly put his hand on my shoulders and says, I'm going to Iceland, Harry. You know, it was... So, and the next thing I would read in the paper would be, he's not going.
Just the insanity of the situation. I mean, get that contract done. But Bobby wouldn't sign it. And then Bobby disappeared.
Boris Spassky, the world chess champion, came to Iceland 12 days before the match scheduled to start Sunday. Spassky said he wanted time to get used to the place, without, incidentally, being constantly molested by newsmen. Bobby Fischer was also sensitive about being photographed, sensitive to the point that he kept not showing up.
He was sitting in Pasadena, California, and my job, my personal mission, was to get Bobby to go to Iceland and play the World Championship match. But I didn't see any activity. I didn't see any plane ticket. I said, Bobby, I have to go to New York. My dad is sick. Let's travel together. You'll be that much closer to Iceland. He said, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Travel with a friend. Yeah, okay. I was getting him closer to where he had to go. We took him to Kennedy Airport. We were headed for the Icelandic Airlines counter. Somehow, a Daily News photographer spied him, and Bobby started running. He wasn't just running, he was sprinting. I turned around, and I stopped, and I put my hands up. I didn't say anything. And Bobby kept running right out of the airport to the curbside limousine and got in and left the airport. Where to? Nobody knew. It was only 3 days before the scheduled start of the match. Chess history was in the balance. I said, you could stay at my parents' home in Douglaston, Long Island.
Don't think the bell works. It works.
Can I ask what you're here for?
Hi, where are you?
What are you here for? Why are you in our driveway? Is there some reason why you want to be in our driveway?
Oh, I guess you know what
You know, you people spoiled everything Thursday night. You did. Well, I suggest you don't repeat it, because it's going to be a very great tragedy if you do.
Bobby was staying at Sadie's house, and Sadie's father was dying of cancer at the time. I don't know whether he told you that. And they were trying their best to get Fischer on that plane to Iceland. At one point, Sadie said, you know, my father's dying. And Bobby says, that's okay, I don't mind. You know, they could not dislodge him from that house.
This was probably the most stressful week of my life.
Are you Dr. Sadie?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Fischer made it clear that he would try to go to Iceland tonight. Did he express these thoughts to you?
Made it clear to whom?
We had talked to a few people, and they had the impression he was going.
Everybody can have impressions, but the only person who knows what Bobby Fischer is going to do is Bobby Fischer. That's about all I really want to say.
I see.
I want you to all keep cool. At one point during his stay at our home, he simply said, it's over. I'm not going.
Still no sign of Bobby Fischer. Today, the International Chess Federation postponed by 48 hours the start of the match, but it said if Fischer is not in Iceland by noon on Tuesday, he will be disqualified.
Mr. Johnson, if I may ask, are you worried? No. And I just wondered if you've ever seen Mr. Fischer, if you have any proof that he actually exists.
That's a good question. Yes, I think, gentlemen, we can agree on the point that Mr. Fischer exists.
We were losing the whole thing. We had to get Fischer to come to Iceland. The Soviet Union had the feeling that the world chess champion was humiliated. They wanted to call Spassky back to the Soviet Union. Boris said to me, this is a very severe situation. You have to solve this on a higher level.
Guðmundur Thorarinsson. I think he asked the Prime Minister of Iceland to call Kissinger.
Fischer was very reluctant to go, and I placed a call to him, and I said to him, go.
The United States of America wanted Bobby to go there and win the world title. By that time, James Slater, the British multimillionaire, had already doubled the purse. So Fischer's answer to Kissinger was, yes, I've decided to play.
What finally did make you decide to go then?
I feel that the prestige of this country is at stake.
Some people have suggested this was psychological warfare against Spassky on your part. Did that figure into it?
No, I don't believe in psychology. I believe in good moves.
Bobby Fischer left New York for Iceland. And what a scene that was on the morning of July the 4th.
Nothing like this has ever happened in Iceland before. You try to describe the impact on the citizens here of Reykjavik as probably about the same as if the promoters of the next Joe Frazier Muhammad Ali prize fight decided to stage their international extravaganza in Butte, Montana.
One observer said the chess match was turning into the biggest thing to hit Iceland since Eric the Red. Though some people were still mad at Fischer, others approved of his holdout for more money.
Well, he was fighting for all the chess players of the whole world, I think.
He's tedious, he's arrogant, he's inconsiderate. Basically, people think that there's something wrong with the man.
We wanted to receive him as a king. But Bobby saw all the crowd coming against him. So he just rushed down the ramp for the first car in the convoy.
I became his private bodyguard. It was a big moment for me, you know. I was more of his friend than a bodyguard. He was quite a character, you know. He could be gentle, but he could be like a volcano sometimes. And it was better to know when to speak and when to keep quiet, actually.
Finally, Bobby showed up in Iceland. Now, is he going to really play for the World Championship?
It's been a long road for Fischer to this game, and it'll be a long match at the end of that road. Both he and Spassky have to play 24 games. The match could last up to 2 months. Each game runs to 5 hours. The most intellectually exhausting battle known to the mind of man. The world chess champion.
Breaking developments.
They might fuss around with the chess pieces and the size of the board and the lighting, but I'm fairly confident the match will start on time.
Boris Spassky, the world chess champion, was there with all his assistants, but Fischer was not here.
The clock has now been started. It was officially 5 o'clock in Reykjavik. Spassky is obviously anxious about the whereabouts of Mr. Fischer.
Bobby was nowhere to be seen, and all of us despaired.
If Fischer doesn't show up by the time 1 hour has elapsed, he forfeits the game automatically. Oh, there he goes now. He's just played one pawn to queen forward.
You saw Spassky make his move, then he touched his clock, which turns his clock off, but turns his opponent's clock on. So Fischer's time is now ticking.
There was no certainty that even though this was the biggest match of his life, he would actually show up.
See, many people think that his antics were designed to upset Spassky, to discombobulate Spassky, which they did, but I don't think that was their intent.
I don't think any of this was directed against Spassky. It was his own inner demons that he was fighting.
Unpredictable Bobby Fischer.
Nobody really knows why Bobby Fischer does or does not do anything.
The most individualistic, intransigent, uncommunicative, solitary chess master of all time.
He has no permanent home.
Fischer is a nomad.
Speaks to almost no one.
No contact with his family.
Troubled childhood.
He hasn't seen his mother in over 10 years.
Is your mother still living? Do you get a chance to see her very much?
Haven't seen her in a few years, yeah.
What about your father?
No, I don't see him.
Are they living together?
No, her.
I never talk about my father. That's what Fischer said. I never talk about my father. This was what led me to realize that there was something special about Fischer's father that nobody else knew.
Regina Fischer has a 900-page FBI file, and one of the things it reveals is that Bobby Fischer's father was not Gerhard Fischer, as had been supposed and as the family had allowed to be known. In fact, Bobby Fischer's father was a man named Paul Nemenyi.
Gerhard Fischer, who was officially listed on the birth certificate, never came to America.
Regina and Paul Nemenyi met at a university near Denver, and they had an affair. Regina moved on and took the baby Bobby with her. Regina often, because she was destitute and needed help, would go to social service agencies and ask for help. Paul Nemenyi would show up and consult with the social workers because he was very concerned about Bobby. He said that Bobby, even at a very young age, was a very upset child. He was afraid that he wasn't being raised right. Later, when Bobby moved to New York City, Paul would come and take him out to restaurants and would admonish him for having bad table manners and would basically act towards him in the way that a father would. One day, Bobby asked his mother, "Where's Paul? Why isn't he coming around anymore?"
When Nemanja died, that's when his mother told him he was his real father. He learned about it only about the time he was 9 years old.
Chess to him was the ultimate escape, his single obsession.
Well, Spassky is waiting.
Right, and waiting and wondering whether Bobby will show or not show. And there's absolutely dead silence in the hall.
Spassky is pacing, he's nervous, and...
Wait, here comes Fischer, coming on the stage saying that he was caught in traffic. And I think Spassky was visibly relieved.
And also perhaps pained.
It didn't look like this match would happen, but finally it happened. And it was phenomenal.
How do you spell relief, okay?
Now, for the first time, we're looking at Bobby Fischer, the man that 8 times has won the United States Open Championship.
I remember saying on TV at one point during the match, I said, you know, we're really lucky to be alive at this moment when Bobby Fischer is playing Boris.
A loss is 0 and a draw is 1/2.
He had an agreement that the cameras be quiet, and Bobby said they aren't quiet, and they disturb me.
He claimed that the noise from the machines was so high that he couldn't, you see, he couldn't think or concentrate.
I believe that, by the way. I think that he had hyperacusis, a medical condition characterized by excessive sensitivity to noise.
Fischer said he would boycott the match until hidden movie cameras are removed from the playing hall. The promoters said the entire financial structure of the match depends on recording and exhibiting the play.
He asked to put the camera away.
He wanted me to clear the cameras out of the hall. And I said no.
You have to start in time. If a player is not present, you have to, as an arbiter, press his clock.
Fischer had been known to quit matches over trivia. So we were afraid that he would just, run back home and would be the end of it.
Bobby did not show up. I had, as the arbiter, to forfeit him. And for a moment, I thought, did I make the right decision? Was it fair? Was it correct? But it was necessary. There was no other way. This night, I remember that I have been woken up by tears in my eyes, that I, as an arbiter, had to destroy a genius.
He was now trailing 2-0. It's very hard to make that up in a 24-game match.
Half the world thought that's it. The match is over, he'll never come back. Why would he even bother trying, to come back from such a difficult situation?
During the match, He would knock on my door about 1 or 2 in the morning. We'd just walk and walk. And we would sit and look at the animals. He loved animals. And he would talk, but he didn't like to talk about his childhood. It was a bad subject. He did tell me that, like, from the age of 2 or 3, he was left alone all day with his sister. The loneliness.
Regina, for all of her gifts, was not a traditional mother. She was a person who moved her kids around from place to place, even every few months when they were really little.
There was obvious conflict between Regina and Bobby from an early age.
He didn't like to have his mother around. She would end up having to send his sister Joan abroad with him on tournaments. He wouldn't play if his mother was along. Regina moved out of the apartment that he shared with her in Brooklyn when he was only 16 years old.
He told his mom to leave, I don't know how politely, and she left. In a way, he rejected her because she was so like him, so pushy, so self-centered, so goal-directed. Maybe he was splitting off part of himself.
In 1960, Regina went to Europe to get her MD degree, and Bobby would have still been living on Lincoln Place in Brooklyn then.
I went to his apartment a couple of times, and it was roach-ridden. It was a walk-up tenement. He had chess books all over the place, and he was just in a complete state of disarray.
The fact is, his mother left him. Think about yourself. If suddenly your father wasn't there and your mother disappeared, said goodbye, how'd you feel? What would have happened to you?
Bobby is all chess. I don't play chess, and I don't pretend to speak for Bobby. But I feel that whatever I do here, whatever I say to help make the Vietnam come to an end more quickly, will help every son, every daughter in the whole world.
1, 2, 3, 4, sign the treaty, end the war. 1, 2, 3, 4, sign the treaty, end the war. 1, 2, 3, 4, sign the treaty, end the war.
You're not going to believe this, Bill, but I'm inside of a wind tunnel about 12 feet away from where the players are playing. The problem, of course, is that Fischer has stated that he wants no noise, no disturbance whatsoever.
Fischer said, well, I'll continue, but the third game has got to be away from the auditorium inside a sealed room. There's a little ping pong room in the back of the stage. And Spassky agreed.
You can't change the location without both sides' permission once a match has started.
He could have claimed the match on a forfeit. He didn't have to play in that back room. If he hadn't, Fischer would have not played, and the match would not have continued.
Bobby started again to quarrel. No, not this one and not that, etc. And Boris said in this moment, so I retire. I do not want this. This is too much for me. If so, we end the match. The two boys were standing together at the table, and I took them here, both, pressed them down in the stool. Now you play. Boris automatically made his first move.
The game could still be watched by a closed-circuit TV camera.
The audience was in the hall, and they could follow the game move by move.
In Game 3, Bobby played an opening, a defense he had never played before, the Benoni, which means son of sorrow. It is so risky, so fraught with danger that whenever you play that, you're simply saying, we're not going to make a draw. This is win or lose. This is a fight to the death.
Bobby moved his knight to the edge of the board.
There's a saying in chess, Ein Springer am Rand bringt Kummer und Schand. A knight on the side I will not abide. It was against principle.
It's not considered a good idea because the center of the board typically is the most important battleground, and that's where we want to position our pieces, or at least in a way that our pieces attack the middle of the board.
Not only did he move the knight to the side of the board, but it also could have been captured by a bishop, and he would have had a very ugly-looking double pawn way over on the side of the board, which it was very unaesthetic, let's say.
Spassky is literally sitting on the edge of his chair, which seems a little more relaxed than Spassky, but Spassky is very tense.
More tense than you've seen him?
Yes. I think he feels that he may be game.
He may be what?
Maybe losing the game.
I see.
Spassky obviously hadn't spent that much time studying this kind of position because the move was, or the idea was relatively rare. So that put already Spassky in a difficult psychological position.
Spassky did not find the best continuation and was consistently outplayed until Fischer won his first game of his life against Spassky. He was on the scoreboard.
What do you think of Bobby Fischer?
I like him. I like his style.
Are you following the games?
Yes, I am. American chess players are behind Bobby 100%, and they're all anxious to see him get in there and win the championship.
Do you think that Fischer will win for the first time over the Russian?
And he's going to be sharing some of his artistic impressions with us in just a minute.
Larry, I thought going up there to that chess match would be like watching the grass grow. But it was far more exciting than I ever expected it to be.
Well, I thought it was pretty exciting, too.
It was just like the Ali Fraser fight all over again. This is Bobby Fischer leaving the hotel for the fight like a matador leaving the Palace Hotel in Madrid. On stage, the tension is developing. It's a real prize fight. That's when he's a fighter. And this right hand is like it struck and drew blood on Spassky.
The score was even. 2.5, 2.5.
Spassky was not himself. All these shenanigans had affected him adversely. He was not playing his true game.
Полный разгром, фиаско. Почему Спасский был, в какой-то степени упрям? Потому что, когда встречается двое, я повторяю, нет, и когда кто-то что-то уступает, нету вакуума психологического. Если ты уступил, то это место занял другой. Вот так произошло в третьей партии. К нам поступила, наверное, масса писем, а в письмах говорилось прямо: следите за Фишером, он вот то-то, то-то, то-то делает.
They believed that the chairs had been wired and the lighting fixture to destabilize Boris's concentration. That's when Boris cracked.
Spassky complained that there was some radiation which was affecting him.
During the match, I felt myself quite unusually, like before. So that was the reason to be for myself. I'm not suspicious man, to become suspicious.
There might be something in the chair. There might be something on the surface of the chair. There might be something in the light.
They inspected the chairs and the lights to see whether the Americans were up to some kind of hanky-panky. They found 2 dead flies, and that was it.
Game 6 is very celebrated. It is probably the most reprinted game of the entire match. It was like a symphony of placid beauty.
Right on the first move, Bobby Fischer came up with a major surprise to the entire world. He almost always starts the game with moving the pawn in front of his king 2 pawns up with e4.
Что он был очень постоянен. Ел манную кашу и яйцо всмятку и чашку кофе, то он продолжал это в течение многих лет. То он из турнира в турнир продолжал это играть.
And in this game, everybody's shocked. He started with the English opening by playing c4. Spassky's preparation was out the window. I'm sure he prepared for many things, but not this.
Fischer did not play his usual game. He played a different kind of game, a placid, positional, slowly building up game where he deprived Spassky of mobility, pushed him back where his pieces could not do anything.
It was just a beautiful game. I don't know what more can be said about it. It was just a model of precision.
It was such a beautiful game that when the crowd applauded at the end of the game, Spassky himself stood up and applauded Fischer.
On his way back to the hotel, Fischer said, "Did you see what Spassky did?" He said, "That's a sportsman. He's a real sportsman."
Game 21 reached move 40, the move at which the game was adjourned for the 2 players to go and study it.
This is NBC Nightly News, Friday, September 1st.
Good evening. We'll have more on the developments in the Watergate bugging case. We'll hear George McGovern talking about tightening up his campaign organization, and we'll have a look at the new unemployment figures. And first, Bobby Fischer. Today was the day when Fischer and the Russian champion, Boris Spassky, were to have finished the 21st game of the World Championship, a game they started yesterday. But Spassky, after what must have been an agonizing night spent analyzing his position, didn't even show up to play.
I was going to photograph Spassky in the morning. He come straight over to me, shook my hand and said, "There is another world champion. His name is Robert James Fischer." I went back to the loft leader, to Bobby's room, and I told him Spassky just retired. And I want to be the first to congratulate you.
Congratulations. How you feel, babe? Tell us how you feel about it. You said you were going to do it. Listen, will you talk to us, Bobby? Bobby, roll the window down.
Bobby wanted to get away because they were banging on the door and all that. Just to beat it out into the hills. Someone brings up the New York Post and it says, Bobby is the champ.
His mother had said to him when she saw she couldn't separate him from chess, she said, okay, go play chess. When that's over, you can start your life. You can do something important.
NBC News correspondent Dick Schaap was in Iceland today, and here's what Fischer said.
How does it feel now? You have the world championship. You're the best in the world at what you've devoted your life to. How does that feel inside?
Feels pretty good, yeah. I mean, my goal now is to play a lot more chess. I feel I haven't played enough chess.
How did it feel inside? All this between the mayor, did you ever thought of anything like that?
No, I never, thought this was going to happen with chess. I just hope this keeps on.
I just had a premonition that something awful was going to happen to him. I didn't know what it would be, but I didn't feel good about it.
One of Fischer's problems was that after the match, he was supposedly better known by the population of the world than anyone except for Jesus Christ. And he was a guy who treasured his privacy. He had a problem.
The entire world knows the name Bobby Fischer by now. Was it a letdown after it was all over, Bobby? I mean, it was, well, there must have been a tremendous...
It was. I woke up the day after the thing was over, and I just felt different, like something had been taken out of me.
He didn't really, after he won, know what he wanted to do with his life. He reached an end point when he was 29.
He was 29 years old, and he hadn't had a childhood.
Well, is it not true that the chess masters are always young men, and that they don't last?
That's been true, generally speaking, but there are exceptions. Steinitz, who was 63 when he was world champion.
But you're in a fortunate position because most of us in life, no matter how successful we think we are, we still have to do what other people want us to do, just to hold jobs. But you don't have to hold a job, or you're on your own. It's a unique position.
That's right. You can't say, well, if Fischer won't come, we'll get some other chess genius who's the best in the world.
Bobby Fischer, the world champion chess player, has until midnight tonight to decide whether to abide by the international rules of chess or give up his title. If Fischer defaults, the title would go to the challenger, Soviet Grandmaster Anatoly Karpov.
He wanted probably to play the kid from Russia, Karpov, and beat him. I mean, it would be an easy task. On the other hand, part of him knew he could lose, and that's death to Bobby. He didn't want to risk that. So what came out was a series of new demands on the rules.
First of all, I like to play matches without draws, and they're going to have to increase the prizes if they want me to play. Once I get the title, they want me to play a match for the title. I'm not going to just play for what their minimum prizes are.
accepting all Fischer demands was unacceptable politically for the Soviet Chess Federation.
Barring a very unlikely last-minute change of heart by Fischer, Anatoly Karpov becomes the new champion by default.
The World Chess Party gave him about 95% of what he wanted. But that was it. He didn't defend his title.
I
think he was unable to cope with his own invincibility. He got more or less scared to sit down again in front of the board and risk losing. But only he who never plays never loses.
We all felt disappointed that he'd let chess down, he'd let the American masters down. Yeah, we all felt kind of a betrayal.
Whereas others could suffer from a period of creative depression after such debacle.
I went out to California on a job, phoned Bobby, picked him up in Pasadena, where he was staying, some cult place he was staying.
I've had so many bad experiences.
And he would talk about nuclear disarmament, our capabilities, his ICBMs and that, you know. And that would go on for about an hour and a half.
Just what is the Worldwide Church of God?
Bobby had been involved with the Church of God since 1962. And after he won the championship, the church was providing him with a place.
The Worldwide Church of God was a group of people that believed in fundamental principles of the Bible. Some people would probably call us fundamentalists.
That will bring on the great tribulation, and that will end in the second coming of Christ, the end of this present civilization.
Basically, a sense that there was an impending coming Christ, and we need to prepare for that particular second coming.
I told him it's all a bunch of hooey, but that's what he chose to do.
I have warned you may be living in the time in which you will see.
I went to his apartment in Pasadena. It seemed to me pretty hopeless.